I, Divya Momaya, founder of Mentor My Board. I welcome all of you to this exclusive series by Free Press Journal and Mentor My Board, which is Grow with Governance. So, focus of this series is role on independent directors in the business growth and sustainability. So, Mentor My Board is a platform to groom, nurture, handhold promoter directors, independent directors, women directors, and board aspirants. And we have a vision of having 1 lakh directors community in next 5 years. Free Press Journal is more than 9 decades old newspaper. And today, Free Press Journal has gone beyond just being a print medium, and they have a very wide circulation of e-newspaper. Free Press has been quite active in the webinar space since lockdown, and even before lockdown, they were very actively involved into the policy level discussions. And this series here is again an initiative of Mentor My Board and Free Press Journal to bring out the best minds coming out and speaking about their board experiences. And so today we have Apurva Purohit with us, who has been eminent, independent director on various boards. So I welcome Apurva. Bharti will introduce you in detail. I welcome you to this exclusive series. And also let me welcome Bharti and Jessilia. Bharti is our eminent advisor to Mentor My Board with 3 decades of experience in insurance industry. And Jessilia is principal correspondent with Free Press Journal. So with this, I hand over the session to Bharti and Jessilia to take it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya. Wonderful to have you here, Apurva. I was going through your very impressive profile. I will just read it out because it's having a number of scintillating highlights, which I wouldn't want to miss. Apurva Purohit is an Indian businesswoman with over 3 decades of experience in the corporate world, where she has formed significant partnerships with private equity firms and promoters to build and scale up diverse sets of businesses, from early stage fledgling businesses to setting up new ventures, and also supervising turnaround and declining organizations. That's very interesting. I would want to talk about this. In her last tenure at Jagran Prakashan Limited, a multimedia conglomerate, Apurva pivoted the group from a deep-rooted reliance on its traditional print businesses to a focus on new age emerging business. The strategies adopted under her tutelage and her emphasis on excellence in implementation increased both the scale as well as the profitability of these businesses manifold. She was responsible for creating Lodestar, which is today one of the largest media buying agencies in the country, as well as envisioning Times of India's entry strategy into television, and has also worked on famed turnarounds like ZTV. Congratulations, Apurva. Under her people-oriented leadership and focus on building a great culture, one of her portfolio companies, Radio City, was consecutively featured in the Great Place to Work survey for 7 years in India and amongst the best places to work in Asia in 2019, and has also become a case study on building high-impact cultures which have a direct correlation on profitability. Apurva Purohit is an independent director at Mindtree Limited and L&T Engineering Services Limited and Manipal Health Enterprises Limited, and an advisor to private equity fund Amicus Capital. Apurva has been a leading voice in the Indian business landscape, advocating gender diversity, what ails it, and what organizations and leaders can do to improvise this critical imperative. She is the author of 2 national best-selling books, Lady, You're Not a Man, The Adventures of a Woman at Work, and Lady, You're the Boss. Through her books, Apurva aims to empower women to encourage them to achieve their full potential. Over the years, Apurva has won multiple business awards and has been named as one of the most powerful women in business as per the India Today group of 2016, 2018, 19, and as well as Fortune India in the 3 years 2018, 19, and 20. Apurva was among the LinkedIn's top voices and Your Stories top 10 digital influencers of 2020. Apurva Purohit also holds a bachelor's degree in science and physics and has completed her PG diploma from IIM Bangalore, and is a state level hockey player and played for Tamil Nadu State and Tamil Nadu University. Congratulations, and it's an honor to have you here with us. I was intrigued by the title, Lady, You're Not a Man, and Lady, You're the Boss. So, as an independent director on Mindtree, I think at a very turbulent time, tumultuous time for Mindtree, during the takeover, Black Knight move. What were your thoughts of what an independent director can do, and what a woman director has done, and what inspired these two books specifically as an independent director?
So Bharti, you've asked many questions in that one question. So let me take them one by one. So let me first talk about, because it is about mentoring boards, etc. Let me first talk about the role of the independent director and across the various boards that I'm on. So I would say, Bharti, that I think governance in India and the role of the independent directors is evolving. As it happens in many things that are going on in our country, there are different stages that we are at. And I would say that we are somewhere in the early stages of mature governance standards. I would say the regulatory authorities have done a wonderful job in setting out what the role of an independent director ought to be, putting in regulations, policies, etc. in place. I think independent directors themselves are evolving from, that old boys and buddies network to a more professional, high governing, advisory, mature level of interaction with the management. And I would say promoters, not all of them, but several of them are understanding today the value that good governance can give to them personally, to them professionally in how to run the companies, and to how valuations will be perceived by institutional investors and over a period of time retail investors. I think that it's a journey. It's evolving. Many things have come into place, but as it happens, many things still need to be put in place. So on the independent question, that's how I look at it. On women and women as board members and me writing those two books, Bharti, so as a leader, as a manager, as someone who's been running organizations for the last 20, 25 years, what was paining me a lot was many highly qualified and talented women were entering the workforce. But within the first 5 to 7 years of their career, they were leaving. And it was not good for them. It was not good for organizations, because after all, the training that one was putting in, the diversity that one wanted to bring into organizations, that was getting lost. So I started asking myself, why is this happening? They enter the workforce with such enthusiasm, with such drive to excel. Why do they leave within the first decade of their career? And across all the women I spoke to, in my organizations and outside, I figured out there were certain things that were barriers to their success. So I wrote both the books to help as a guide, as
very nice,
overcome those barriers.
Taking both this into account, and what were the two things which made you write the book? One or two things, both the books.
So the first,
because you did a survey of the women, yeah.
So the first book was The Lady or Not a Man was written for women at the entry level and the middle level. And really that was to tell them that you can succeed in both, because society somehow keeps on messaging to them that either you can do well as a family person or you can do well in corporate. You can't have both. So the entire thesis of that first book, the entire message of the first book is there is not an either or. Why do we not ask men after marriage, what will you do? Why do we ask women this question, right? So because we are telling them that you can't do both. So the messaging in the first book is that you can be successful in all arenas of your life. And here's a guide on how to do it. The second book is for slightly more senior women, Bharti, where they have reached middle level, but somehow they are hesitating to push themselves to reach the top. We know that at the middle level also the diversity ratios are around 15%, but that drops to 3% at the top. Why are so many women leaving from middle level, or why are they not pushing themselves from middle management to senior management? So there are some barriers there also, which is a lot to do with their internal tentativeness and lack of confidence. And that's what the second book tells them, that you can be the boss.
Briefly describe your board journey, your corporate journey at a senior level, and then being invited on the board of such eminent companies like Mindtree, L&T Engineering Services, etc.
So I would say that my journey started as many of children of middle class homes, where education and hard work were the key to success. That is what our parents taught us, that education, studying in a marquee institute, working hard, persevering will get you whatever your aspirations and ambitions are. And indeed, that's the journey I too followed. However, I would say that where I was a little different or differentiated from many other women who were maybe as talented or as hardworking, is the fact that through these 32 years, I didn't give up. It was never, either or in my mind. Even when I had my son was born, it was not that I should stay at home. Career was always priority for me. So I think that is one differentiator, where your first priority, that's the question we all need to ask. What is our first priority? And for me, it was always career. Equally, I think I got a lot of opportunities, but I also took a lot of risks. And I believe that women don't do that easily. They get into a comfort zone, they get into an organization they like, where they are needed, and they're happy to remain there. But somewhere that being needed is another form of stagnating. And I pushed myself out of those comfort zones many times. I constantly reinvented myself, and which is where you see me today.
So, how do you think more and more women can join the board, and what would be your, advice, or your learnings you would like to suggest? Okay, do this before you enter the board.
I would say 2-3 things. One is that several women walk up to me and say that, we are interested on getting onto a board. And the first question I ask them, that why are you getting onto a board? Ask yourself this question. If you're getting onto a board because it's a tick mark, because it will look nice in your profile, please don't do that. That is not the reason to get onto a board. Okay, because first of all, being on a board is hard work. You're not there to just be that token woman director. Okay, you're there to genuinely contribute. You're there to contribute to the management. You're there to contribute to the organization. You're there to be the voice of the minority shareholder. You're there to look at the governance practices and be the guardrail. You're there to understand the new industry that you're getting into and contribute to the business and be an advisor to the management. This requires a lot of work, a lot of homework, a lot of effort. So please be aware of the reason that you want to get onto a board. Do not get onto it because you want to be that token woman. You get onto it because you genuinely want to contribute. That's the main advice I give women. After that, if they're still serious about getting onto boards, then I would say that, of course, you need to understand the industry that you're getting into. But equally, you have to be very, very clear that, the role of the independent directors, as we touched upon in the beginning of the conversation, is evolving. Regulatory bodies are pushing independent directors to take more of a independent and active role in running the boards, and you need to be cognizant of the duties of an independent director. Finally, as a woman who is naturally, women, don't speak out much. Women are not assertive. Women are more tentative. Are you willing to stand up and make your voice heard? Are you willing to stand up and make your opinion count? Because if you're not willing to do that, if you're willing to be talked over by the men in the room, if you're willing to be interrupted, if you're willing to keep quiet, then actually you're doing a disservice to other women. Because you're not making your voice heard and your opinion matter. I think if you're clear about these 3 things, then only get onto a board.
People talk about work-life balance. It's become such a catchphrase. But seriously, how do you prioritize? How do you advise the person who's intent on a corporate career as a director, independent director? Where do they need to place their focus? Having so many things on hand, you tend to scatter your focus. So you spread yourself very thin. So in the corporate governance journey, how would you advise people? How do you choose to prioritize?
Many people ask me that can women have it all? So I say, yes, you can have it all, but not at the same time. At different parts of your career, 30, 40-year career, you will get whatever your heart desires, whatever have been your aspirations and your aims, but all of it won't happen at the same time. And therefore, the importance to prioritize, importance to decide what you want to focus on. Now, what happens is many people understand focus, but they don't understand that the other phase of focus is sacrifice. You have to, if you want to focus, you have to let go of some things. Okay, so because you can't do 7 things at the same time. So at different, so if you break up your career in, let's say, 5-year windows, in the first 5 years of your career, what are the top 3 priorities? In the next 5 years of your career, what are the priorities? In the next, when your kids are small, obviously amongst the top 3 priorities will be your kids. Then you don't have time to network and socialize. That's okay. But once the kids grow up, you will have time to network and socialize. So keep networking and socializing for a little later part in your life. Then you come to a stage like it has been for me, where you become an empty nester. Once you become an empty nester, then again you have time to refocus on what your personal desires, hobbies, likes were, and to be able to grow as a person yourself. So I think we need to understand that the priorities will change at different parts in our life, and we need to focus on the top 3 at a particular point in time. If I marry it back to governance, I would say the same thing, that when, let us say, you are, so you as you said, you may get invited on a board, right? Don't look at it as recognition alone. Look at it that when you are being invited on the board, the management on the other side wants your expertise to come there. Now, which angle of your expertise is a particular board looking at? If they're just looking at you, okay, come on to the board because we need a woman director, I would say no to that kind of a recognition or that kind of an offer. If they're saying, this is the industry that you have been in, you understand consumers very well, let us say. We are not a consumer-focused organization. Help us there. Or we are going through a particular type of M&A and integration. You've seen integrations. Help us there. So what is their priority? And does it match? Is it aligned with what your expertise is? To me, that is the definition of recognition or being invited on a board. I manage everything because, one should not look at work-life balance. Oh, I need 3 hours to relax and I need 5 hours. It's work-life integration. And how can you seamlessly fit in different facets of your life into that? And once you enjoy. So I enjoyed playing hockey. I enjoyed studying. And once you're enjoying this, you can do many more things. But if you don't like your job, if you don't like to be on a board, if you don't like doing that homework that is required to be effective, then it will always look like, this is taking off my personal time, and neither will you like it, nor will you enjoy it, and nor will you do well there.
Because mentoring is still a new concept in India. It's not evolved fully. So as a leader, how do you see the role of a mentor, whether it is, the boards, whether it is the leadership, whether it is the management level, how the role of a mentor is evolving, and how do you see yourself as a mentor?
I would say 2 things. A person who is looking for a mentor, I would say you can find mentorship anywhere. You don't have to really go and seek mentorship at somebody who's very senior or somebody who's at the top or somebody who's your boss. Sometimes mentorship can be found even with your peers. Sometimes mentorship can be found outside of your professional circle in your personal life. It can be found with your juniors. I remember in our organization a few years back, where digital was becoming the big thing. We had put in a practice where you were getting mentored by the juniors, the millennials who were digitally savvy,
Wow.
and you learned to be a digital expert by getting guided by your juniors. So mentorship can happen at any level. That's one point I'm making. As far as what mentors, what do I want to do in mentoring, and what do I expect to achieve? One is, of course, all of us want to create impact. All of us want to build impact and influence around us. And I often see that, the outside perception of me is someone who's built organizations, scaled up organizations, turned around organizations. I would say that my personal definition of myself is being of somebody who's built people, who's built leaders. And that's where I have hoped to create impact. That in building leaders, I get joy. In transferring my learnings, my value system. And if there are 5 CEOs who understand my values, who understand my learnings and implement them, that for a mentor, nothing can be better, right?
Gender diversity at board levels, there is still a level of understanding because the regulations are in place. But how can a board help improve gender diversity in their organization? And gender parity is a different conversation altogether. So where does these two things stand?
So, how can a board help improve gender diversity in an organization? Now, I would say that over the last 10-15 years, I have seen a huge transformation in the conversation around diversity. But many years ago, diversity was just, as I said, tokenism. It was just like almost like a CSR initiative. Okay, let's get a couple of women, and that's diversity. Over the last 15 years, there's been a lot of increasing conversation at the board level, at the management level, at the executive level of improving diversity. And I would say organizations have put in tremendous effort. Now we must understand, why did they put in that effort? Organizations also have a profit motive, they have a business agenda, right? So why did they put this in place? Because in these years, one, they recognize that diversity will improve my business results. There were enough researches coming out which clearly said that the more diversity you have in your organization, the more diversity you have at your senior leadership level, the more diversity you have in your board, your business outcomes will improve. And I think that conversation needs to keep on getting repeated again and again. And we need more and more empirical evidence to say how diversity has a business result. Only then will it get treated seriously. So I would say one focus on keeping on showing these outcomes is very important. The second thing is that organizations and leaderships that I see around me do want to increase diversity, but somehow they get caught up in what I call patriarchal biases. So many a times they have senior women in their organizations, but they don't give them the tough roles. They don't give them, oh, this is a job which requires 300 days of traveling. Oh, this is a job which has got very tough clients. This is a job which is the delivery operations is very, very difficult to do. In their minds, what they are doing, they are saying that, listen, women, I'm trying to protect my women, because that's the patriarchal biases all of us come now. We are always wanting to protect women, and they are doing it out of the best of intentions. Let me not give this traveling job to her. How will she cope? Let me not give this tough client to her. How will she cope? But when we are doing this, what are we doing at the end of the day? We are bonsaiing our women. We are not, by not giving the tough jobs to them, we are not growing them. We are not teaching them to be tough. And then they are not able to compete with the men around who have done the tough assignments. So the second message always is, and I personally try to give it in whichever board I'm on or wherever I'm talking is that please treat your women exactly in the same manner as your men. The premises of the startup that we've just launched is how does one reduce this inequality? How does one the self-help groups that we are working with across rural Maharashtra, how do we ensure that they are able to connect with the urban consumer? How are we able to tell the urban consumer that get back to your roots, get in touch with the local cuisine and the local food items which you used to eat in your grandmother's house, and you have got so distant from there. So it's a lot about connection. It is a lot about building equality and reducing the inequity we see. It is a lot about looking at all the stakeholders, and I've personally always believed it that an organization has many stakeholders, and each of the stakeholders are connected. If any of us believe that the promoters can always do well at the cost of the employees, the bigger shareholders can always do well at the cost of the smaller shareholders, the management can do well at the cost of the vendors, it is a short term thinking. Everybody in this ecosystem has to do well. Your vendors, your suppliers, your employees, your investors, your management. Everybody has to do well. Only then this whole table will move up.
You have been an inspiration to many. You have been, with your podcast, with your videos, you have been inspiring women to come out of their comfort zones, and why people, should have a, very specific perception about women. Now, what has been your motivation? What motivates you and what inspires you? So, I would like to know, on that.
As I said, I've always believed that if we, whatever experience we've gathered, whatever we have learned, whatever our personal wisdom has been, it is so important to share. And I see myself as a teacher, a leader, constantly wanting to share, wanting to help people around me become better human beings and better professionals. So I would say the main motivation always has been how can anybody who has worked with me, how can anybody who has interacted with me learn something out of my experiences. Okay, so that's been the core motivation. The second thing has been that as a business leader, I have recognized the value women managers bring to the table. Clearly, in organizations where the diversity ratios are high, they do well in business outcomes, they do well in innovation, they do well in sustainability, they do well in consistency of delivery. I also believe that the male managers who work in a more diverse organization become better human beings. Many of my male managers will tell me that we become better fathers and better husbands because we had so many women we were working with. So I think from all these aspects, uh, grooming people, teaching them, ensuring businesses have better results, ensuring organizations are scalable. Finally, for all this to happen, for me, diversity was a route to make this happen.
So thank you for being here with us, and over to Jessilia for the closing remarks. And deep gratitude to you for taking out time from your busy schedule and having here with us. Thank you. Over to you, Jessilia.
Thanks, Ms. Purohit. It was really nice listening to you, and it is always an experience to interact with you and know how you have done things differently in your career and how you're helping women to improve it. Because in this part of your professional journey also you're trying to help self-help groups, which is also in a way empowering women. So I would like to firstly congratulate you.
Thank you so much. I think you're by promoting governance, by working on mentoring boards, you all are doing a wonderful job. The whole ecosystem has to work together if we want governance standards in our country to move up. So well done, all of you, and thank you for inviting me.